Hello, I'm Natasha. Welcome back to the channel. And today I thought I would talk about what has been happening with the worrying escalation between Iran and Israel recently. Now, I am not an expert in Iranian history. I am aware that Iran had the Shah in power until the 1979 revolution. The Shah was aligned to the UK and the US. There was a coup in 1953 led by the Iranian army and supported by the British and the Americans. The coup aimed at strengthening the autocratic rule of the Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. A key motive was to protect British oil interests in Iran after its government refused to concede to Western oil demands. However, post the 1979 revolution, the monarchical government of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was superseded by Khomeini, a religious cleric. Since the 7th of April 1980, the US and Iran have had no formal diplomatic relations, and relations between the West and Iran have worsened. I mentioned in another video about Iraq and that the US supported Iraq with chemical weapons to use against Iran in the Iraq-Iran war. Now it seems that with this escalation, there are people in the West, especially Christians, that support what Israel and America are doing here. They consider Iran to be a terrorist Islamic state that persecutes its people, in particular women. And I'm not really going to comment on this because, according to international law, human rights abuses are not a basis on which to overthrow a regime. We also have other regimes like Saudi Arabia, where their treatment of women is as equally as discriminatory. There are only two grounds for launching an attack under international law, according to Article 51 of the UN Charter. Firstly, in self-defense, and secondly, if authorized by the Security Council, neither of which apply here. There have been claims by Israel that Iran was 15 days away from the creation of a nuclear bomb. However, we have heard these grossly exaggerated claims before with the Iraq War. It's my opinion that when making claims like this, there needs to be really 100% robust evidence on this, and intelligence needs to be foolproof. I am also not sure why Israel and the US feel it's their place to dictate who has nuclear weapons. The only country who has actually ever used nuclear weapons is the US, with the approval of the British in 1945. Iran has not actually fought an aggressive war since the time of Nadir Shah in the mid-18th century. And once again, like other conflicts that we have seen, I think there are other reasons why Israel, with the support of the US, has launched this attack. This attack comes in the context of Wesley Clark, a former NATO commander, claiming that the Bush administration was planning to attack Iraq first before taking action against Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Iran, Somalia, and Sudan. Conflicts have been achieved in all of these countries bar Iran. This conflict should also be seen in light of what is going on in Palestine, with Iran forming part of the axis of resistance alongside Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and the former president of Syria in support for Palestine. There are also economic reasons for this conflict. One reason is Iran's increased cooperation with China, Russia, and BRICS member states. Iran became part of the BRICS Economic Organization on the 1st of January 2024. It saw this as a way to overcome the impact of US sanctions and isolation. The US has imposed restrictions on activities with Iran under various legal authorities since 1979, following the seizure of the US Embassy in Tehran. Iran, however, has been strengthening relations with Russia and China. Russia and Iran signed a historic $20 billion oil for goods deal in August 2014. In 2021, trade between the nations rose 81% to a record $3.3 billion. China Iran trade relations have also expanded in recent years, driven by economic, energy, and strategic cooperation. As Iran's largest trading partner, China conducts billions of dollars in bilateral trade annually, primarily through Iranian oil exports and Chinese manufactured goods. Despite international sanctions, China has sustained economic engagement with Iran, often employing alternative financial mechanisms to bypass restrictions. Iran has also been trying to move away from the US dollar. Kazim Jalali described the growing use of national currencies or alternatives to the US dollar in trade among SCO countries as an effective tool in reducing dollar dominance in the global economy. Clearly, Iran's actions are a threat to the dollar and Western hegemony in the region, and a more probable cause for the conflict than so called human rights abuses. It seems that the US is doing its utmost to resist the inevitable multipolar world which is now emerging, and wishes a regime change in Iran. And I am very wary of Western regime changes in the Middle East. Libya has been blighted by civil war since NATO's catastrophic intervention there. And let's not forget the migrant crisis, which was caused by creating an open border in Libya. Iraq also suffered from civil unrest for years. ISIS flourished in Iraq after the 2003 invasion by NATO allies. And I'm not sure if there is regime change in Iran that it will lead to a better situation there. It may well for Western interests, but I'm not so sure for the people of Iran. I can also understand why these sort of anti-Western regimes want nuclear weapons. Gaddafi in Libya gave up his nuclear weapons and was an easy target for NATO. If this regime survives, I think it will be as committed as ever to pursue a nuclear weapons program to deter possible future regime change operations. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.